Hello, everybody. It is June 3rd, 2021, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I welcome you to the Professor Hamamoto Show. I might be back, I think, next week on the regular channel, but as I'll tell you in a moment, I've been expanding. This is a good opportunity for me to branch out as I've been wanting to do. It's almost 6 months now since I first started doing these live streams regularly. I started Christmas Eve 2020, and it's going quite well, if I may say so myself. I hope you're enjoying the shows. Michael Charlie, welcome from the East Village. It's the first time I've seen your name in the chat room. I hope you are a frequent and a regular visitor. I did live in the village. I was living in Washington Square Place. This is when I taught at NYU for 1 year. Had a great time. It's a really nice community there, and I miss being there. And I hope it returns back to its normal bohemian self after all the repressive measures have been lifted. I think the people of New York City are not going to really put up with it forever. I think the people who thought otherwise are proven to be, or are proving to be, badly mistaken. And Martha Ezel, I see you here from Sonora, California, and that's Northern California, I believe, right? Mom with Bulldogs, hi, welcome, good to see you. Bonnie Bradley, welcome. Piper Fogel, I see you there again. Welcome. Hey, Tyrone Sargent. We had a great chat yesterday. We had the Patreon. And by the way, if any of you missed, who are members of the Patreon who missed the invitation, I sent a mass mailing the night before. And a couple of you have, well, at least one person has said that you missed it. And there was a light attendance yesterday. We had a really good talk, but so I'm just wondering if you missed it, please send me a notification and I'll look into it. And Rusty Shackleton is in the house. Welcome. And the mobster fold as well. Okay, enough for the shout outs. I'm sorry. We have a lot of material to cover, and I'm going to provide you some interesting looks at an otherwise just very straightforward, salacious story. A gold digger. I'm going to use the old school terms. Please don't ding me on that. I don't teach in the university anymore, so I could use whatever language I want. And I always did back then, by the way, which got me in trouble. So I'll use the old-fashioned terms like homosexual, gold digger, honey trap, sugar daddy, all of it, okay? Because you know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Screw all the PC people in the MSM and all the people in the academic world who are acting as language Nazis. Language and culture is irrepressible. You people should know that by now. Not you, but I mean the censors should know that. You're living in denial. All you people who are promoting this particular agenda, whatever it might be. Good luck. You're not going to be able to repress humanity. Not for long, maybe for a short while, but not for long. So we had great office hours. Let me advertise also this evening. That is 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific time. This evening, my favorite show with John McLaughlin and the great George Webb as well. That's the trio, and I make up the third leg of that. That's this evening. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to give away too much. I want you to delight in the surprise and the joy yourself. But John McLaughlin did send me a draft of his manuscript that he's been working on. He's writing a book as an homage to his father. And there's going to be a celebration, a memorial this coming Sunday. I'll be giving a 10-minute tribute. I'm going to do my best to keep it, because I like to talk. I'm going to try to keep it down to 10 minutes. I'll cut myself off if I go beyond that. But I'll tell you, the manuscript's really good. The book's going to be excellent, and I just wanted to share my my delight with you on that. Also, I alluded to a couple more channels. I have started a channel called Collegiate Gothic, Professor Hamamoto. That's the subtitle, just because there's a couple other ones on Collegiate Gothic. And they're the sites or the YouTube that deal with the architectural style, Collegiate Gothic. I'm dealing with the cultural, social, and political style that I call the Collegiate Gothic. What do I mean by that? First of all, this is going to be a podcast series. This is the series that's going to get me up into 500,000, 750,000 land listeners, and it's going to have a unique perspective because it's not just going to be an ordinary true crime podcast. And from what I understand, the true crime genre is the most popular of all. And as I think I've shared with you before, according to my sources, it's a hugely popular genre amongst women in particular. And I already have about 40 different separate but related thematically different crime cases that I've been collecting over many, many years. And I'm going to start reviewing these one by one. I don't know if I'm going to do them every other day or once a week. I might just go right through them in a flurry so that people can just binge watch all this, so that this program could be picked up ASAP from Westwood One or Sirius or Xfinity or one of the larger broadcasters. And this program, this podcast, Collegiate Gothic, Professor Hamamoto, is geared for a worldwide English-speaking audience, and it's huge. It's not just be for the U.S., and it's going to have a special resonance towards people overseas, English speakers in countries, large population countries like India and China, because these are the two countries that send the most college, both undergraduate and graduate students and professional students, med school, primarily engineering, Ph.D. programs, MD programs. These are the two largest countries in the world that send tons of students here to the U.S. and are going to help us revive our economy. And at the same time that we are lifting our own native-born American fellow American citizens, we are going to revive our economy to the best against the best efforts of the bankers who want to suppress us. We're going to revive the economy through this great infusion of intellectual power in all the different areas. So I want to get to them upstream. I want to really clue them in on what the American academic system is really like, so they do not fall into some ugly, ugly traps, which could include death, by the way, could include murder and assassination in some cases. So I'll talk more about that when we get into the podcast proper. And it's you can tell I'm excited by it. And the second channel that I set up is called Cultural Forensics, Professor Hamamoto. This is also on YouTube, and what this channel is meant to do, and it's not all going to be live sharing. In fact, cultural forensics is going to be something that I might do at the middle of the night. So I'm not going to go on camera in my pajamas, or I might just it might just be audio. It's going to be sort of like a running notebook, and I have tons of notebooks all over the house. And I thought, well, I should just really put this material straight to YouTube so that I can share it with you directly. So these are not necessarily definitive statements. They're kind of works in progress. But I just kind of want to share with you my thought process, my working process. Maybe it'll be of use to you. Plus, it'll be really far upstream, forward thinking that the rest of the news cycle is not ever going to get to. If they do, it's going to be way downstream, right? This is going to be breaking material, fast breaking material. I want to post anywhere, anytime, wherever strikes my fancy. I'm going to, take my phone out there, and if I need to cast something, because I'm getting more comfortable with the hardware, the software, the different protocol. You can see I'm fairly comfortable now with this live cast here on StreamYard, and you can see it's advertised there See their logo there. Before long, I'll go to the pro level and you'll see my logo instead of that duck. But anyway, that'll come in time. So that's cultural forensics. Now, I'm already getting endorsements so far as the cultural forensics perspective is concerned. It's not a perspective, it's a methodology. And let me just quick tell you what it is. You've heard my talks about the so-called Black Dahlia murder, and I kind of pushed out the writer Steve Hodel, the great investigator Steve Hodel. I pushed his work a little bit further by taking what he has done in the area of criminalistics and criminal forensics and added the cultural analytical part, which I call cultural forensics. And I was able to, and I'm not taking anything away from Steve Hodel and other people who've written in this area. I'm just saying that through my application of understanding the culture, particularly, especially the sort of marginal cultures, which I'm interested in criminality, sexuality, and the dark side, and true crime as well. And that's all part of the cultural forensics approach. But in addition to that, I also have deep anthropological, historical, mostly social science knowledge and literary that I can bring into. For example, one of you have already gave me a ringing endorsement so far as the cultural forensics approach is concerned. I'm not going to state your name, but it's on the comments section publicly if anybody wants to read it. But this one person commented that my cultural forensic approach is, quote unquote, very fascinating. Quoting here, it says, it made me go back and research the, quote, secret dark, unquote, life of Salvador Dali. I'm not a professional artist, just a hobbyist, but always been a fan of surrealism, and in particular, in the art of Dali. And of course, if you recall, in my talk on the life and times of Dr. George Hodel, who is alleged to be the Black Dahlia killer and even the Zodiac killer, and even the lipstick killer, according to his own son, Steve Hodel. Salvador Dali figures prominently in that story, according to Steve Hodel. He was a friend of George Hodel, who himself was a self-styled connoisseur of artists and surrealism in particular. And the argument, according to Steve Hodel, is that his crimes were posed and staged to be these living tableaux. I don't know if he uses that word, but I will. These living tableaux of horrendously mutilated women as artwork, according to some of his other friends, right? His friend Max is it Max Ernst? I'm sorry, I might have gotten his name wrong. The photographer, right? Another surrealist who figures prominent. I think I'm trying to block out. Excuse me. I have to turn off my iTunes music here. It all of a sudden came on. That sounded like Frank Sinatra, though. I was really tempted to listen to Old Blue Eyes, one of the great artists of all time. And by the way, when I do cultural forensics, I'm going to be talking a lot about music, and this is a threat. This is a warning. I will even start putting my own music up there, because some people have asked, "Oh, well, we'd like to hear you play or put something on there." And yeah, I want to do that as well. I'm spread pretty thin, but now I'm finding ways to get my material out there. So yeah, it's an interesting. And I, by the way, I meant also to thank you for your comments. I heard really high quality comments and commentary participation here, and that's what I was hoping for. I think the ones who are just interested in the sensationalism and just sort of the superficial level of true crime or cultural phenomena, they just want to know like who's zooming who, or I think they've moved on. I think that the idea that my work here is I'm not saying necessarily better, but its intention is quite different than what you see on TMZ or 48 Hours. I'm not Chris Hansen here. I'm not trying to be Chris Hansen. Chris Hansen is not even Chris Hansen. You know who he is, right? He's the guy that was entrapping all these perverts in that great show, which I was fascinated by. But he's still out there doing these true crime deals. That's not what I do here. It's superficially, it looks like that. But as you'll find out in this particular case that I'm talking about, dealing with the murder of William McLaughlin, you'll see what I mean. I'm coming up with some astonishing connections here. As you saw when I went in on Tony Bowe or Anthony Bourdain or Joan Rivers, and I don't start out that way. I just take them for what they are, and I just start digging, and I start applying the cultural forensics methodology. It's a mindset for me by now. It's a default position. You can learn it. Maybe I'll design a course and so that you can adopt it. This is what I used to try to teach my students, because the primary assignment of every quarter that I taught was a research paper. They didn't do any of these scantrons or objective questions or fill in the blanks. No, they had to apply the critical faculties. So I've been doing this for years, and now I have a name for it. It's called cultural forensics. Anyway, interesting comment. I won't belabor the point here. Dali's unstable psychotic mind. Yeah, he was also probably a bearer of psyops. Most of you know about how writers have been used in that fashion. J.D. Salinger. I'm claiming Joseph Heller fills that particular niche for the intelligence agencies. In his case, it might have been British American. W.H. Auden, definitely British psyops, even though he's an American citizen, but he's sort of an Anglo-American literary. He straddles that sort of illusory boundary. I believe we're still being controlled to a great extent by Britain. Not just through the mind control, but through the economy and the political system. That's not something you hear in InfoWars, however. It's always the Chi-Coms, right? Even Peter Daszak, right? You know who he is? The Lemming Man or the Ferret Man? Peter, Eco Health Alliance, that guy. Yeah, his name will never be uttered on InfoWars. Why? Because he's British. He's not an American. He is a person, amongst many others, by the way, foreign nationals, that have the health and well-being and even the lives of Americans in the palm of his hands, or maybe in a test tube or in a petri dish. I'm just speaking analogically, of course, right? Metaphorically, but never will even so-called alternative news utter the name of Peter Daszak and mention the fact that he's not even an American. He's been living here for many years, but so has Anna Wintour with Vanity Fair, the Condé Nast magazines. They're situated in many significant institutions. And one of you, again, speaking of great comments, requested that I go in on the Sabbatean Frankists, because I mentioned in talking about the Dr. George Hodel situation, this is a hypothesis that he was working on the behalf of the Sabbatean Frankist underground in Hollywood, which we still see today. This was going on back in the teens, right? When Hollywood first set up shop in around 1919, 1918. It was really early. It's the silent days, and the studios were outdoors. That's one of the reasons why they moved to Southern California, because they didn't need artificial lighting. They could work almost year round, and they worked cheaply. They're also trying to escape the mafia and the extortion rat. Of course, the mafia eventually followed them out here and merged with them. They became the mafia, right? Well, that's another story. But the Sabbatean Frankists came along with them. And when people hear Sabbatean Frankists, they think Jewish, right? They think, oh, this is going to be an anti-Semitic attack, right, on Jews in Hollywood. Wrong. I'm sorry. You've miscalculated. I found otherwise. And I gave a talk months ago now about the British, the Raj in Hollywood. The British Raj is the imperial uh, political, economic, colonial mechanism that was held over India and what is today Pakistan and Sri Lanka, India at large. That was called the British Raj under Queen Victoria. And so this book, I went through it. It's the British Raj in Hollywood. And it's the British Raj that were the British Frankists, Sabbateans. That's what you saw there. That's what you're seeing today in the 21st century. I'm previewing this for you. No one else has done this. That's what you're talking about. You're not talking about, Samuel Goldwyn and all the Central European Jews that founded the film. But yeah, you are. But they're sort of like the front men for the financiers. I mean, how do they get the money? How do they get the capital to fund these large scale enterprises? It required a lot of sophisticated, state of the art film and later sound equipment, and not to mention actors and salaries, which grew and grew and grew. So anyway, that's another talk here, and that's another example of the great type of comments that I get, which I believe give me the green light to go in on these particular areas of inquiry. That even if you look in indie media, you can look at all the YouTubes, right? You think you know it? No. I read that material too, been there, done that, right? But I'm taking through the cultural forensic perspective, am able to take it much deeper, and as such come up with a much more comprehensive and in-depth explanatory model. And why is that important? Because you understand the model, you understand the infrastructure, you understand the superstructure, you understand the architectonics of evil, of oppression, and of goodness as well. Understand the architectonics, and you can begin to dismantle it or reconfigure it in a way that benefits humanity, as opposed to allowing it to just fester and founder by just spinning our wheels in these, no matter how good and entertaining they are, but we're just spinning our wheels, reading the same supposedly alternative, independent perspectives. Yeah, and I went through that process, and I've always, well, at a certain point, you say, well, there's got to be more, and there always is. The explanations that they're offering are not satisfactory. So anyway, I wasn't intending to do that, but I'm giving you a preview. Thank you very much for that, these comments and these really inspirations for me to dig deeper so far as the cultural forensics approach, methodology, and worldview. I used to call it New World Order theory, but I think that's limiting. Cultural forensics is much better for my purpose and hopefully for yours. So today I'm going to be offering some perceptions from the cultural right. I'm going to keep plugging it until it's ingrained in your mind from the cultural engineering perspective, right? I'm going to keep moving it into cultural forensics, cultural engineering. I'm going to keep pounding it away. But this one again takes place down in our favorite place, Newport Beach, California, right? The sunny place for shady people. And I didn't make that up. That comes from M. Somerset Maugham, who, by the way, was also a British intelligence agent, right? You know this. And he was a novelist, okay? So it fits into that model, writer, journalist, academic, intelligence person, right? First of all, I wanted to respond, though, to a good comment, and it was innocent. I don't think it was anything critical about it, but couple of people made a comment that, hey, you did this talk on Dr. Grant Robineau and his girlfriend, Sarissa Riley, but that case was thrown out of the courts. Yeah, I know that. I read that article that the DA was trying to get the charges dismissed, and he managed to succeed. But you don't know, according to another article that I read, that DA, it's an elective office, by the way. So that DA received monies from one of the defense attorneys of Dr. Grant. Robina. So I guess it's really, it really helps if you know the right attorneys, who, by the way, aren't there to serve the public. They're there to serve the bar. They're not even there to serve their clients. You know this. They're there to serve the bar. And that has a whole layer, I don't need to go there because you've already studied that. You know this, the whole Masonic aspect to the court system. For those of you who don't know that, go ahead and read it on your own. I don't need to review that again. So a couple commenters mentioned that. I'll just say that so far as my research is concerned, the fact that that case was thrown out means that we need to check it out. This is where our work begins from the cultural forensics perspective, because as I mentioned last time, part of the reason for the court system, the judicial system, is to contain information and perspectives and insights so that they will not travel any further. Maybe this is not a good example, but the Nuremberg trial, most of the people who were really responsible for the Second World War skated, or they weren't even indicted. In fact, some of them were celebrated. And I'm not saying the people that were indicted and were hanged or put in prison were good people, all right? It's not a matter of either or. I'm just trying to use that as an example of how the court system itself is used to contain information and insights that are going to be politically damaging to the real establishment, the people who are behind the court system itself, not the lawyers necessarily, not the public defender. They're probably ignorant of this themselves. Most of your undergraduates, when they walk for graduation, they don't really think anything about all the Masonic regalia and the ritualistic process that's involved. And it's probably the same for the medical doctors and the lawyers and the professionals and the architects. All of them swear an oath to their craft. Okay, we call them professions, but in the old days they used to call them crafts, right? Because the craft has that occult overtone, and we're talking about occult arts and sciences here, and that's a neutral term. You know that. I don't have to explain it. It can have a dark meaning, but it's for our purposes for right now. I'm using in the neutral sense occult, which is meaning hidden. So this is where we start. So that's the point I'm trying to make here. Just because something is over, like the John F. Kennedy assassination, right? Our beloved martyr. I mean, that took place back in November of 1963. A lot of you are watching weren't even born. I was. But we're still looking at it, not just out of curiosity, because it continues to yield more and more hard information, as well as explanatory connections that help us to understand the predicament we're in 2021, right? That was the coup d'etat against America. I agree with the authors who come up with that perspective when revisiting that historical moment, that pivotal moment in not just American, but in world history. So again, I just want to say that just because something is over or you think you know about it, you've heard my maxim over and over again: do not try to understand me too quickly. Do not try to understand this too quickly. Do not try to understand the murder of Mr. William McLaughlin too quickly. As good of a job as the author Caitlin Rother has done with his book, I'll Take Care of You, that's the title. And I'm going to read her other books. So she's such a great writer and great researcher. And again, I'm not taking anything away from her. I'm just building it out through the cultural forensics to provide you with an altogether new look at super elite divorce, right? Going all the way up to Bill Jr. and Mindy Gates, right? What's all that about, right? Divorce is more than divorce. And this finally clicked today when I was putting the finishing touches on this talk, right? 3 hours ago, I didn't have this insight. I'm going to share it with you. And I happened to look at some literature, and it indicates that my hypothesis could very well be right. And if it is correct, it's going to revolutionize the way the public looks at divorce. It's going to revolutionize the way the legal system are going to be marketing and selling what we think are celebrity divorces, right? Because there's something much deeper that I'm finding out that goes beyond, oh yeah, so and so broke, J-Lo broke up with I can't remember all the men she's been with. Is she still with Ye? I think so. Yeah, I think she tried to commit him, and that didn't quite work. He was too sane for her or anybody else to put him into the psychiatric system. So Ye, just keep it together. We're behind you. I think you're brilliant and you're a great businessman. You're a creative mind. You come from a great family. Both of your parents are wonderful people. They're educated. They're intelligent. They raised Kanye West very well, and he did a sort of a self-mocking album called College Dropout. But man, maybe that's probably what saved you, Kanye. You left college before they could medicate you or put a label on you that you're ADHD or whatever. And I'm not trying to dismiss problems that people have in the psychiatric realm, but anyway, congratulations. Not all stories end badly, right? So keep it together, Kanye. We're pulling for you, and we were pulling for Kobe Bryant. And I mentioned him because Kobe Bryant was a Newport Beach resident. When he moved down there, I said, "Oh no, don't do it, Kobe. Get out of Orange County. Don't do it." Anyway, that's probably another story. Dennis Rodman was a Newport Beach resident. When he moved down there, man, I mean, you thought the snow cone color hair and all the piercings and all the tats were crazy. Man, when he moved down to Newport, he just went just off the deep end. I hope he manages to salvage whatever money he got out of the NBA. It's not uncommon for people that I told you yesterday or Tuesday. I was watching the interview with a former Major League Baseball player. He ran through $55 million through his career, and he was winding up doing these exhibition matches, wrestling, right? Okay, so this is Newport Beach, which I'm going to delve into a little bit more specifically here. But I should also tell you that there's at least, I think, 7 civil suits that are active against Robino and I think Riley. These are women who have claimed that they did such and such. I'm not going to try to repeat the actual charges, but they have these civil suits against. Because remember when O.J. Simpson was exonerated in the so-called trial of the century? Yeah, O.J. Simpson walked, and he lost in the civil trial. Though the Goldman family recovered damages. I don't know if they ever managed to collect on it because his pension with the NFL was protected. That was news to me, right? There's all these different types of firewalls that the elite have built in them for themselves, and one of them is divorce, because the divorce that the super elite undergo is not the same type of divorce that you or I might go through, and that's how they get away with it. And I'm getting ahead of myself. So the suits remain active so far as I know, and there's no assurance that they won't be charged in another court or in a different at a higher level. We don't know. So don't prematurely walk away from this case. I think this is a case, in other words, that bears watching. And I think it's going to yield a lot more insight, as I was hinting at, or not hinting at, I was leading to on Tuesday, that relates to the larger Irvine. And you know about Donald Bren now. This is probably a name you never heard before. He is the largest landowner in the United States of America, larger than Bill Gates. All right, far larger than President Donald Trump, Donald Bren, but you never hear about him. And he's the guy, the brains behind University of California, Irvine. As my father told me, he says, hey, if you're a real estate person and you want to get your property that's otherwise standing vacant, you want to get into a higher level of valuation, there's two strategies you can pursue. One, build a giant golf course, a giant resort, right? Build that, and then all the property, which you'll own, right, will just go up incredibly, exponentially. And you'll own all the different retail stores, and it. And the other strategy is to build a world-class research university there. And again, it'll all build. That's what happened to UC San Diego, UC Irvine, all right, and Santa Cruz. Well, they just kept it at a certain level, but this is what developers like to do. And of course, the research that comes out of the universities that Dr. Robichaux and many, many others has all these different spin-offs that translates into big bucks. All right. So we're going to be hearing more about this, whether you want to walk away from this particular case or not. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep following it. I'm not going to investigate it. I have other fish to fry, so to speak, right? So again, don't try to understand all these things too soon, what I'm here presenting, right? Okay, so let's talk about the murder of William McLaughlin and the subsequent cover-up, because I believe that the court system itself, with the cooperation, and I'm not pointing fingers at any one agency, with the cooperation of law enforcement, allowed this case to go fallow, and that's beyond dispute. The perpetrators who eventually found their way into prison, Nanette Johnston being one, and the other character being a former NFL player, Eric Naposki, they're in prison, but they almost got away with it. It wasn't until about 11 years after the crime, the death of by murder of Bill. I'm going to call him Bill McLaughlin because that's how his friends and family refer to that. I have no personal relationship with him, but instead of calling him William, just or Bill or McLaughlin. Okay, that's a shorthand for us here. They're in jail, and I think we can, we being the public, because I know that although it happened to family members, a crime against any one of our fellow citizens or our fellow human beings needs to be investigated and brought to a just conclusion, because you might not think it's important, and you might, there are a bunch of spoiled people down in Newport, but it doesn't really matter where they're from. If you allow these miscarriages of justice to continue, then pretty soon the whole system becomes corrupt, it becomes rotten to the core, and very soon, you no longer have civil society. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah, I think so. We're undergoing the same process in our electoral system, our political system. We've seen all the multiple levels of corruption, and it's going to be a test of our resolve and our commitment to this great experiment called America, to see whether we're going to be able to walk ourselves back away from the cliff. And I think we can do this if we use our brain power, analytical power, and dare I say, modestly, with all due immodesty, cultural forensics. Yes, that's not what's going to help us resume business as usual, which is always going to be dark. Okay, I wasn't born yesterday. I know how human beings are flawed and have a kernel of original sin in there that they're going to carry through life. Everybody, including myself. It's a matter of extremes and degrees here. So Nanette Johnston, she's the villain in this book. Her full name, by the time she had married her 3 or 4 husbands, was Nanette. And even then, when she was in, I think, college, she spelled it with 2 N's. She's a shapeshifter. She was always changing her identities. And I have some reasons why she was doing that. I think she might have been, I'll just tell you real quickly without going, because I'm running out of time already. I think she was a multiple. I think she had alters. This book is saying, and the book can't cover everything, but she was abused. She was beat up by her stepfather. Does this sound like a pattern to you? And her stepfather, and he was never charged for this, but this is the accusation, also abused one of her siblings, possibly Nanette herself. I wasn't going to talk about that specifically here, but the fact that she kept changing names like this and was always concocting these stories and legends about herself might be related to that, right? That's why even the book has been written and it's here for us to peruse. According to the principle of cultural forensics, that's when our work just begins. All right. So she's been married, I think, 3 times. The first time was a starter husband. With all respect to you, I don't mean to denigrate you, because you had 2 children with Nanette, and they grew up to be really wonderful children as adults. In fact, it's her children. I mean, not their children. Her children that Nanette that really I think grounded her. As much of a killer she was, she did love her children. She had that core of humanity. In fact, you might even argue that a lot of what she was doing was to make sure that they had a better chance in life than she did. Maybe I'm just providing rationalizations for her, but I think you will agree with me that on this one. I don't think that her children should be punished for this, for her misdeeds. They were innocent of it. Okay, so we have to go back into the time machine and recall the days when the internet was just kind of getting off ground. There were no personals websites, right? There was no Ashley Madison. And by the way, it was my students who taught me what Ashley Madison is. I had no idea that something like that existed. It was also my students who taught, this is at UC Davis, because I taught a course, I designed a course in sexuality, and I taught it for a number of years, quite successful. It was a very popular course. And I was doing cultural forensics before it had a name. And it was so successful, as I've told you before, that the women from women in gender studies and the people in the counseling and the whole GLBTQ lobby sent in their moles. They weren't moles. They went in there to disrupt the course because I was not going along with the agenda that they were imposing as part of the transhumanist door that they were kicking down. I've told you that story before. But it was my students. I'm just trying to tell you that we had a great exchange of information. I was learning about this new online culture of dating, and they told me about sugardaddy.com. And some of them wrote me some crazy papers that I learned. These are the research papers that I required. Some really interesting insights into undergraduate life. I didn't realize that. I don't know what the percentage is, and I've read some books, by the way, done by sociologists about undergraduate sexuality. I used one. In fact, one was called Hooking Up. It was a study about undergraduates, how they date and mate and meet each other in today in contemporary terms. That was kind of an eye opener for me, right? So there's some study about that, and there needs to be more. Most of it is dedicated towards promoting GLBTQ consciousness or transgenderism or transsexualism. So the people who are going to try to find grants for money there, good luck. You're going to have to do it on your own. I'll just tell you. Maybe I'll devote a whole talk to that. But let me just tell you this. There were more than a few undergraduates that I read about and talked to just casually, because whenever they started talking about it during office hours, I would change the subject. I didn't want to go there. And I always kept the door open too. And I said, this is your business. Why don't you write it up in a research paper? We don't need to talk about it, because I didn't want to endanger my own, I don't want to compromise myself, because who knows who these people were, right? They could be setups. And they're always, at the university, they're always trying to compromise people, including me. and it's mostly people who are candy asses who have very little understanding of how the real world works, right? So they can get something on them and get these mostly professors and staff people to get them to do their bidding. Them, I'll let you figure out who that is. They're not administrators. They're the people who are behind they're the people who, let's put it this way, behind Jerry Sandusky. Okay, do you get an idea? So, all right, enough about me. Packard, I'll call her Packard. Let's call her Nanette. She had 2 children, boy and girl. I already mentioned this. Let's move to Bill McLaughlin. He was a biotech entrepreneur in the Newport Beach area. When I say Newport Beach, we're talking about Irvine, where UC Irvine is located. It's all part of this larger biotech center, and that's what UC Irvine was designed to be. It was conceived to be by the people who were behind Donald Bren, right, with the Irvine Company. This is part of a master plan. This is really the origins in contemporary times of the post-human, the transhumanist world that we're moving into. UC Irvine it was designed to play a pivotal role in this brave new world. And so Bill McLaughlin is part of this cohort. Now, I'm not saying he understood the master plan. I don't think he did. I think he was probably living not just the mind of a high-level businessman, but he was living an emotion-charged life between a wife that he was married to for 24 years, 3 children that he had with him, and all the duties that are required of raising children, caring for them, educating them, making sure that they grow up somewhat normal, right? And also, he's got wrapped up with women, and one of them was Nanette. And I think that's part of the process. That's part of the plan. That's part of the strategy to wrap people up like Bill McLaughlin, tie them up and emotionally. You send, you're aware of the honey trap phenomenon. You're aware that entanglements or entanglers flypaper are sent in there to bind you, right? And most of these people are not, Nanette might not have known what her function is in this larger scheme, but she might have been sectored, she might have been programmed, she might have been traumatized at an early age so that she could be sent to these targets, people like Bill McLaughlin. Well, you're thinking, well, why would they go after one of their own, right? Well, he's not one of their own. He is an accumulator, right? He's a bioaccumulator. He is raking in the money. He's raking in the cash. He's raking in the investment funds, but that is not going to stay in his hands. A certain amount of it will. He'll get the fancy cars. He'll get the luxurious home on Balboa Island. But if he thinks he's his own boss, and if he's the president of his company, he's wrong. He signed on to a plan, to a deal much, much earlier. He might have forgotten about it. Sometimes they do forget. And then people have to be sent into them to remind them, hey, listen, you made a pact with us. We have a deal here. There's no contract that anybody can find. It's not on file in the courts, and no lawyer has ever seen it, but we made a deal. And I'll tell you about where I think he made the deal before we end this live stream. I'm not going to leave you hanging. Right? So get that straight. The people that you know this, that you may think that are on the top, even someone like Bill Gates Jr., but certainly Bill McLaughlin, that's not the top of the pyramid. They are there used as accumulators. They're raking in money and capital for larger forces who administer these hereditary family banks, right? This is where you get into the names, right, that we're all acquainted with, right? Starts with an R and ends with an R, right? You turn over the rock and you see a Rockefeller, names like that. They're just one. They're just sort of like the catch-all term. But so those are the people that they're really working for, even though they may not understand that. So, as I mentioned before, Bill McLaughlin was married for 24 blissful years to his wife, and she went to see her attorney, and she got a pretty good settlement, as she should have. She invested 24 years. Whatever the settlement was, she had children that she had to raise and a household to maintain, and the arguments, pros and cons for divorce. But I'm going to hazard a guess that while they were married, that marital status has has standing so far as finance is concerned, right? Not just in terms of buying a home or funding a business, but also as a means for moving money around, especially large numbers of money, not money, wealth. Let's call it wealth, real estate, airplanes, resort homes, on and on and on, right? You and I, unless you're wealthy, and congratulations to you. I mean, I'm not against wealth, all right? And I'm not doing these stories because of some kind of secret resentment against these people, right? But you and I don't have that problem. But for them, it's really part of their business model to figure out how to layer their money, how to structure it in a way, not just to reduce their tax liability, but to make sure that certain hands don't get on them, including not just ex-wives, but other people as well. So Bill Loughlin and him, people in his position are throughout their entire lives are playing this sort of cat and mouse game with the people that truly run them. Even though they get the public credit for being this genius entrepreneur. Now, I'm running out of time right now, so let me just move into what I think was really going on in the murder of Bill McLaughlin and the fallout, and what I think was not the cover-up, it's just sort of the encapsulation of that crime by throwing these two miscreants in prison. Oh yeah, case closed, right? Because I'm steeped in cultural forensics, I never, in reading this book, for once thought it was just another true crime story the way that Caitlin Rother presents it. And my suspicions were confirmed around pages 126 to 27, if you're reading along at home. And this is when Bill McLaughlin starts arming himself up well beyond just ordinary self-protection. And by the way, he was 17 years old when he joined the Marines. Right? I think he was still in high school when he signed up, and he went in and spent a number of years in the Marines. I don't know if he ever intended to have a career there. And I'm just mentioning that because soon after that, well, not soon after that, he wound up as an undergraduate at Loyola Marymount University. He intended on scholarship. And he was the first one in his family to ever go to college, let alone on scholarship. And LMU, right? Loyola, is that a word there that you should be familiar? I think it is. So that's kind of a clue, right? Loyola Marymount. There's many Loyolas all over the country, and you know who they're affiliated with without me having to go into it. But not only did he attend a private institution after being in the Marine Corps, but he was on full scholarship. And guess what? It was from a quote-unquote benefactor. It's in the book, said benefactor, and the benefactor is never named. So that's already a hint that Bill McLaughlin has already been tagged for a certain role within this larger system that I alluded to just a couple minutes ago that deals with these banking family interests. He's an earner for them, right? But he's kicking it upstairs to the capo di tutti capi. In this case, it might lead all the way to, yes, you know where it is. It's the city amongst the seven hills in Rome. So he moved from a person. He did have a major, I think, in biology, but that didn't make him a biological or a biology genius or a business genius. That was set up for him, I think, right? And they hooked him up with this inventor who I think was working for Hughes. Later on, they had a falling out, and maybe that was also orchestrated. They sued each other, and they were in court for years and years, and all this money was going to the lawyers while he was in this lawsuit. And it occurred to me that maybe, and this is the big takeaway here, in case I run out of time. The real takeaway here is that those lawyer fees might be a way to move a lot of this money from his account into the hands of these banking families via the lawyers. Do you understand? Who are not sworn to protect you or me, the public, or even their clients. They swear an oath to the bar. Okay, so that's not so far-fetched, this scenario that I'm laying out. So when this is what I'm alluding to, cryptically, albeit, because I like crypto just like any other person, right? I think in crypto terms, in dark cryptological and cryptographic terms, because that's how they think. I try to get into their head space, right? Lawyers. Yeah, lawyers. This is a way. So when you feel sorry for all these people who are in years of lawsuits, you might be watching not a money laundering operation, but a money reallocation, or money relayering or redistribution process. And I'm going to have to look at the literature to see how that's done on a mechanical. And there are specialists. There are forensic accountants and even professors who teach accounting practices, supposedly for them to do it right, but who knows what they're really doing. You can even see them on YouTube, and they say, "Oh yeah, this is totally illegal," but they know by knowing it's. They also know the illegal side. So I'm not imputing any sort of evil motives to them, but this is common knowledge for specialists. That's what I'm saying here. And the same. Well, a similar situation holds true in the case of these large-scale divorces, right? You heard me mention Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, right? I'll get back to them in a moment because there's another means of getting the money that you earn for these families into their hands, right? You can't just cut them a check and you can't send them the money through PayPal. You've got to be a little smarter than that. And you got to be smarter than the people who are watching TMZ, who are watching all these celebrity sites that have 2 million views and 1 million subscribers. Oh, I'm so jealous. But you're getting the bird's eye lowdown right here, right on this site. You're getting it here right now. Well, what's going on with these high money celebrity divorces? Yeah, it's going through the lawyer who's sworn an oath to the bar, and that money is being moved around. Okay, it's not going to stay with celebrity divorce lawyer Abe. A lot of it does. Don't get me wrong, but there's so much to go around, and there's so much that these other dark hands are owed that's going to get their way in there. So don't feel sorry when when Ye and Kim Kardashian bust up. Eventually, it's inevitable because it is a business model we're talking about. You dig? Right? It's a transaction, right? I'm sure they don't even have sex. Maybe they never. I mean, who cares? It's kind of a horrible thought. Just the vision of it. Let me blot it away. Kim Kardashian, please. It's amazing to me that any man or woman would consider herself, sexually attractive or desirable. But like Nanette, she also had a lot of cosmetic enhancements. That's another way of moving money around from, you can bill through the lawyer, whether you have the procedure or not. Right? You can overbill. Invoicing, that's an old technique, right? You overcharge for something. I'm not saying plastic surgeons do this, cosmetic. I don't claim that all doctors are crooked, but there's a lot of them out there, ladies and gentlemen. You know it and I know it, right? There's a lot of crooked professors, all right? I am one or was one. I'm not crooked because I'm meaningless. There's nothing that I could have provided that they found out, right? I've gotten certain, nibbles, but they realize that I was too hip to their game to be ensnared by it, because I don't want to wind up dead at age 55 like poor Bill McLaughlin. I mean, he left 3 children grieving. But by the end, he was nervous. He was worried, and he wasn't just worried about Nanette killing him. That's the story, by the way, that came out in the trial, right? And it's probably true, but there's more to it than that. And he wasn't just scared about her NFL boyfriend, this lunkhead who bragged that what a great shot he is, and this. He was afraid of some heavier people. I think that were after the money that they believed that were owed to him. Okay. So he learned he was introduced to these future business associates at LMU, at Loyola Marymount University. Then they put a cap on it. He went to Pepperdine College for his MBA. But other than that, he really didn't have any specialized business genius that would have gotten him into this position as a biomed. He supposedly invented a blood purifying device that was supposed to revolutionize surgery. That's another way, by the way, of, I'm not saying this is the case, that's another way of also moving money around by doing a lot of biomedical fraud. Well, we know about that woman, Atheros, right? The woman down Silicon. I gave a talk a couple weeks ago. That one woman who spoke with a artificially lowered voice so that she could supposedly lure in people like Rupert Murdoch in as investors. He didn't lose much money at all. Like I said, that's another proof, I think, another indication that my insight that these frauds are a way, and these divorces and these lawsuits, year-long lawsuits, are a way of layering money around, moving it around, right? Okay. So he learned, he was inducted, I guess, through LMU, and he has a lifelong friend. I'm not going to name him here because he might be innocent of it, but this is some person who, he met at the student worker program. Remember, Bill McLaughlin came from humble circumstance, and I mention that is because that's the type of person, the person who just wants to succeed at all costs, someone who comes from dirt, someone like me. We're so hungry, man. We'll just take anything, right? Those are the type of people, and if they're bright, they're smart, they just didn't come from the right family, right? But Bill McLaughlin was, the first one of his family in college, but he was a smart kid. Everybody said that. People all that were interviewed after his death, right? So that's where it all started. I'll go into it. Maybe I'll return to it a little bit later. But the point is, you have now, ladies and gentlemen, through the courtesy of Professor Hamamoto's cultural forensics, now you have a much more comprehensive idea about what's going on with Bill Jr. and Mindy, right? Man, yeah, they're shifting them assets around, yeah, And I was, well, not really. I knew there was some kind of cynical purpose for, behind that. And there are a lot of high earners, by the way. They're in the process of getting divorced right now in anticipation of the collapse of certain segments of Wall Street, of the economy. It's not just Bill. And that's one of the reasons why they put them out there, to kind of just take the focus off the larger evacuation process. And of course, we're not going to be told that, hey, we better head for the door ourselves, right? One final kicker. If you're really low class and you're really unimaginative, and you have Harvey Levin who hosts TMZ, and you have people on YouTube who subscribe to the tune of 2 million, these celebrity videos, and they watch to the tune of 2 million views of Kim Kardashian. We want to find out, is Kim okay after the holdup in Pelly, right? Remember when she lost all them jewels, about $9 million worth? I can't remember how. It was a lot of rocks, man, that got loose. Do you think that was a real holdup? No, baby, no. Besides, she's insured; she can get some of it back. But that money, that gold, it was handed over. It was handed over in Paris, and it's a bank. It's this Palooza International Banking Center. You know, why else would they be there? Does she like French movies? Do they have any understanding of French history? You know what I mean? Or do they like Satie? You know, do they like the cuisine? Do they understand? You know, probably not. Not. You know, that's not their job. Their job is to be celebrity couriers and celebrity accumulators for these banking families. So, ladies and gentlemen, I ran 5 minutes off over my time, but I think it was worth our while to kind of dig it in a little bit deeper. And I'll return to this idea. Mull this over in your mind. I know it's a lot to grasp at first. It's a rather bleak and cynical outlook on life, but you didn't make up the rules, and neither did I. Our job is just to forensically figure it out and find a way that we're not screwed over as these people are running game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Bye.